All right. We're climbing. We're doing everything. Okay. Thanks for your patience, everyone, for waiting a couple extra minutes. We had a couple technical difficulties, but we should have them figured out now. I have a little opening spiel for everyone while everybody joins today's webinar, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kyle Kugler, and I am the Iowa SourceLink Program Coordinator at the University of Northern Iowa's John Papajohn Entrepreneurial Center. In today's webinar, Jerica Pellington will be covering the new and updated features of the GovConnectIowa platform. Jerica is a GovConnectIowa specialist and is joined today by her colleagues Tara West and Rachel Cryer, who will also be helping answering questions in the background. So special thank you to all three of you for helping us out today. Before we get started, I'd like to share a little bit about what we do at Iowa SourceLink and some important information regarding today's webinar. At Iowa SourceLink, we assist Iowa entrepreneurs who are looking to start, grow, fund, and even exit their businesses by providing step-by-step guides, make helpful referrals and connections to our nearly 400 city, county, and statewide partners who provide free business assistance and counseling services. And we are also home to the Business License Information Center, which is a centralized database of more than 450 business licenses from across the state. It's a lot. Now I'd like to share some information about today's webinar that is relevant to all of you listening. I will repeat this information at the end, but just in case you cannot stay to the very end today, it's important that you make note of this now. Iowa SourceLink does not provide any sort of continuing education certification for your attendance here today or any of our webinars for that matter. We do send out an email to all those who attend, so that would be you, that can be used as your proof of attendance in a couple of days after this webinar concludes. This is not a formal certificate. We do not provide certificates. Again, we do not provide certificates. Don't ask, please. Thank you. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available to view in the coming days, more than likely this upcoming Monday. Again, it is being recorded. You can watch it in the future. There are two areas towards the bottom of your screen that are most relevant to you. The first is the chat box, where my colleague Sophie Troxel will be sharing the slides for today's webinar. So thank you, Sophie, for doing that. If you have any questions, you can either enter them into the Q&A box, or you can just enter them into the Q&A box. We're going to hold off on answering questions live until the very end of the webinar. Both Tara and Rachel will be answering your questions directly in the Q&A box throughout the webinar, but we're not going to actually vocally be talking about them until the very end. If there isn't enough time to get through all of the questions today, don't worry. All unanswered questions will be sent to our presenters alongside your contact information. Whew. Everyone's done. They're tired of listening to Kyle, and he can turn off his camera and drink some coffee or something. Jerica, I hope you're ready to rock and roll, and I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Kyle, for that introduction. So for those of you that don't know me, hello, my name is Jerica. I am with the Iowa Department of Revenue. I do serve on the GovConnectIowa team, and I'm one of the specialists. I will tell you today that I am excited to share the latest enhancements to GovConnectIowa and then talk about the ways that we're continuing to improve based on your feedback and needs. I will tell you that in the background, thank you, Tara. She's going to be running the slide deck. So if you hear me say Tara, next slide, that's just what I'm referring to there. So we'll go ahead and keep going. You should be, there we go, perfect. Okay, so if you have been to one of our webinars before, you have heard our disclaimer. The information in this webinar shouldn't be construed as legal advice, and it's not binding on the department. If you're interested in more information or learning more about our disclaimer, feel free to go to the information that's listed on this slide, and that is included in the presentation that you have. So for the agenda today, we will be focusing on what's new for GovConnectIowa beginning November 13th, 2023. We are going to cover the modernization program timeline, how to get started on GovConnectIowa, share new web requests and features that will be available. And then at the end, we are going to have a break for a few questions and answers that are live. So you can ask your questions like Kyle had said, and Rachel and Tara will do their best to address it live. So we'll start by talking about the program timeline. In 2019, the Department of Revenue began conversations about modernizing our tax systems to better serve Iowa taxpayers, increase efficiency, and we also wanted to improve the taxpayer experience. So a little bit of background, we were administering taxes through 22 different systems. So with the modernization efforts, we have been able to streamline our business processes, transition into what I'll call like a consolidated system, and then build a robust e-services portal, which is why we're here today. That's known as GovConnectIowa. So then how this matters to you, in November 2021, GovConnectIowa went live for business taxpayers and for the tax professionals. And then in November 2022, corporate filers were incorporated. And then now here we are in November 2023. This is where we're going to incorporate individual income, fiduciary, and inheritance taxpayers. Throughout this presentation, I will be referring to these annual updates as rollouts. So for example, this rollout that we're implementing on November 13th is called Rollout 3. So if you want more information about modernization, you can visit our website down in the right corner of the slide. It's tax.iowa.gov/modernization. There you'll see more information about our modernization efforts and also how we're partnering with various state agencies. So there are some important dates to keep in mind. So what we can see here is that November 1st through the 12th, so starting today, any payments that you have for individual income, fiduciary, and payments that you need to make during this time frame, these should be sent via physical mail, or you can pay in person. And then beginning November 13th, GovConnectIowa will be available to you, so that way you can begin making those payments online. You will see that November 8th through the 13th, for existing GovConnectIowa users, GovConnectIowa will be unavailable while we make these system updates. It is important to note that drafts will be deleted. So say, for example, that you're on GovConnectIowa now, you're an existing user, and you save a draft on November 7th, and you're like, I'll come back to it a couple days later. Just know that on November 8th, those drafts will be discarded. This information is also available on GovConnectIowa. So what we'll do now is we'll talk about what's new with Rollout 3. So if we can just move one more slide up. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. So this is a screenshot of the updated homepage. So if you already use GovConnectIowa, the links that were available before are still there, and they have been split into user types. So for example, you'll see businesses, individuals, and this is intentional. And the reason why is because we want to create a hub that you can go to, you know exactly where you need to go. So for example, if you're a business, you would go to the businesses panel. And so this is meant for business owners or tax professionals that are representing businesses. So from here, you can learn how to file a return, make a payment. You'll see information on registering a new business, special events. You have a variety of different options or information that's available to you. For individuals, that's where individuals would go first. So from there, they would be able to make a payment, check the status of their refund, say that you need to verify your identity, which we'll go into that a little bit later. You have that option too. And then we also have third-party services. So these are web requests that are available to tax professionals, third parties. We tried to include a hub for you as well. And then the bottom three panels, so you have refunds and returns, additional services and resources. Those are links that could potentially span across tax types. And so we just wanted to include those in a general space for you. So when we talked about the services that are available, I want to start talking about the non-logged in online services. So there are three that we're going to start with. Again, these will be available on November 13th, 2023. That will be at noon. The 6 web requests that we're going to show today, I'm going to start with 3, is that we have the register a special event. Right now, this form is available on our website, and it will be available on GovConnectIowa soon. And then verify my identity, which we just talked about, that will also be available on GovConnectIowa. So what this means is that if you receive a letter from the department asking you to verify your identity, you can respond to this letter by clicking this link without creating a GovConnectIowa account. And then another web request that is moving to GovConnect Iowa is where's my refund? So it works very similar to what you know today, but now it's available on GovConnect Iowa and it's available for fiduciary taxpayers as well. You can go in and you can enter in your social security number, the requested refund amount, and the tax year, and it will give you a status as to where we're at in the process of processing that refund. The next three that we have, the first one is innocent spouse relief. More information will be available on GovConnect Iowa beginning on November 13th. And then we have the report fraud or identity theft. So these forms currently live on our website. However, you can still go to the same place. If you go out to tax.iowa.gov, they have a resources tab. And from there, you would be able to see, the report fraud. And so you would still be able to click those links to get to these beginning on November 13th. But these will be processed through GovConnect Iowa. And then a new one that you may have questions about is called View Qualifying Debt for Setoffs. So this link will allow you to view any outstanding debt you have that's eligible for a future setoff. So an example of when you would use the qualifying debt web request is say that you recently won $1,000 at a casino. You approach the payout counter to claim your winnings and the casino system says, hey, you owe a debt. And then the casino would inform you of that portion and say that they need to be withheld. And then in response, the casino is going to generate a letter that has this unique letter ID. And basically, what you'll be able to do is take that letter ID and go into GovConnect Iowa and key it in on this web request, and you'd be able to view all of the debts associated with the setoff program. And then we do have new logged in services that will be available. So once you're logged in and connected to the tax accounts, you do have a variety of options that are available. One of the most anticipated updates for Rollout 3 is the send a message feature. So what send a message does is it allows you to directly communicate with Department of Revenue staff without leaving the GovConnect Iowa portal. So what this means is that you'd have to create a logon, you'd have to be connected to your accounts, and then you can send a message to us. Another exciting update is for inheritance tax. So these forms are only available to file via paper right now. However, they will be available through GovConnect Iowa beginning November 13th. So let's talk more about the new feature that we call send a message. So basically, this means that you get to say goodbye to phone queues. You get to have hassle-free communication. That's the goal of this, right? We want you to be able to communicate with us directly. So what this means is that registered GovConnect Iowa users can now reach out without picking up the phone, and you'll be able to communicate with us here. So I'm calling this as simple as 1, 2, 3. So what that means is that step 1 is that you log into your GovConnect Iowa account. 2, you click send a message. 3, you craft and you send that message, and then we'll get back to you within 2 to 3 business days. Basically, our goal of this is that you get to experience a faster and more convenient way to connect with us. And then one option that you're going to see here, you'll see a list of message prompts that you'll be able to choose from. One of these is that your feedback matters to us and that we want to see if there's an issue with the system. So this is more technical. So say that you have a technical issue, something isn't working like you expected it to or not like it used to. If you run into any issues, you can report those issues here, and that will be directed to the right team. Basically, we'll take care of the rest. I will say that with any message that you send, just keep in mind that users must be an authorized individual on the account to discuss confidential information about a taxpayer account. So if you are not listed as a power of attorney or what we call a rep cert, so that representative certification form, we recommend that you get those in possibly prior to rollout if you can. And then you can at least get those in there by November 13th. I will say that having access to GovConnect Iowa does not authorize an individual to discuss confidential information. So it's just important to have those correct authorized individual forms on file. Another feature that you'll see is with viewing letters and mail delivery preferences. So GovConnect Iowa does offer paperless mail delivery. And so what that means is that it stops most paper correspondence from being mailed to you. And instead you would receive most correspondence electronically to the GovConnect Iowa account. So how you would view that is you could go and log into your GovConnect Iowa account, and then you would be able to view the letters directly. We do have the option for fiduciary fiduciary and inheritance taxpayers to begin opting in on November 13th. So what that means is that if you are connected to one of those account types, you could opt into paperless mail and then only receive that mail through GovConnectIowa. You do have the option to opt in and out, which is great. So the next piece here that we have is about acquaintances and clearances. So we are excited to tell you about a significant update to our services and what I hope will streamline the process of obtaining these clearances and acquaintances. So what will happen is these documents will soon be available electronically on GovConnectIowa. So what does that mean for you? That means that starting on November 13th, when you're connected to the tax account, you can obtain and view these clearances and acquaintances electronically as soon as the day after they're issued. So that means basically faster access to the documents that you need. So if you're waiting for these documents to come through, say that you file that fiduciary return, you're waiting for that document to come, you could request access to that account, get that access code, and you could view it as soon as the next day. So there are a couple of reasons why I'm excited about this. I won't go super in depth, but I'm excited about the speed behind it. So like I said, that means that you can receive the documents very quickly after they're available. And I know that that will help reduce some of that wait time or, hey, I didn't receive it, what now? You'll be able to get it there. Another one is the convenience. So say that you happen to request a copy, you'd be able to see these documents 24/7, 365. And then again, I just talked about efficiency. So you'll be able to view those online and it just reduces the risk of losing those documents. So I have the steps out here for you, but basically you're going to follow the steps that you do now. You're going to file that fiduciary or inheritance return, and then you are going to request access to the tax account. You're going to receive and enter that access code, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then what will happen is you'll wait for an email that tells you that a letter is available on GovConnectIowa. So another thing that I wanted to talk about with letters here is I wanted to talk about understanding the notice and letter. So with modernization of these systems, this means that our letters had been reformatted. And so they look a little bit different than before. And so I wanted to talk about what you can expect and how to understand what we need. And so one of the questions that we commonly get is, I received a letter. What do I do with it? What I'll tell you is that our letters typically include the reason why we're contacting you, and they tell you what you need to do with it. So I will tell you that we send letters for various reasons. I included some examples on the screen. So if you have a balance due, if you're due a refund, if we have a question, we need to verify your identity, we need more information from you, we changed your return, or if we need to notify you of a change or an update, that's an example of when you would receive a letter from us. Most of these letters that I'm talking about, they are available once you're logged into your GovConnectIowa account. And then what to expect, once you get that letter, you open it, what does that look like? When you receive a letter from us, I really just ask that you do three things, that we read the letter, respond to it, and pay as much as you can if you need to. So one of the things that we talk about in our taxpayer services group, which is our customer service area, is we talk about how each notice or letter contains a lot of valuable information. So we just recommend that you read it carefully. If we changed your tax return, you can compare the information that we provided in the notice or letter with the information that's in your original return. Important information such as changes to the return could be listed on the second or third page. So if you're reading the first page and you're like, I don't see contact information, I don't know why I got this, we just recommend keep reading. We do try to include it on one page if we can, but that's not always possible. The second step is to respond. So if your notice or letter requires a response by a specific date, we just recommend that you go in and you respond to it. So we'll talk about this next, but we do have the ability to respond via GovConnectIowa, but just make sure you're reading through that letter. And then the last one is to pay as much as you can. So if you have a balance, we just recommend that you contact the department and start talking about, what that payment looks like or paying it in full. You can make payments online on GovConnectIowa. So that's another perk that's coming your way. One last thing that I'll say about this is that even if you're not sure if the letter you received from us is legitimate, I will tell you that there is a way to verify if it is. You can come to GovConnect Iowa, and on the main home screen, you're going to see respond to a letter. What you can do is once you click that link, you'll be able to enter the information on that letter. So think like a date, and if there's like a letter ID on there, you would be able to enter that information and be able to see if that's a valid letter from the department. You can also contact our taxpayer services team. So now getting into respond to a letter, this is a function that is currently available on GovConnect Iowa, but it will soon be available for individual income, fiduciary, and inheritance taxpayers. So what this means is that you don't have to send physical mail anymore for quite a few of our letters. So you can do this without creating an account or logging in. On the screen, you can see the logged in and non-logged in options here. This feature does allow you to respond electronically, and you can include attachments to address the information that's requested by the examiner or auditor. So say that you happen to get a letter that says, hey, we're requesting more information about why you put this number on line 7 of your return. You would be able to provide that information electronically. I do have a note on the screen that says important for logged in. So this is if you're looking at it later, this might be helpful. Is before you can respond to a letter logged in, you do have to view that letter in the GovConnect Iowa inbox before you can open it. We do have on-screen instructions that are available, but that is one thing that can sometimes catch new users. So in terms of filing returns, we anticipate no change to you. So you will file your returns as you always have, whether it's via a tax preparer, software provider, and you will follow the same due dates. It is important to note that individual income, fiduciary, and inheritance tax returns cannot be filed through GovConnect Iowa. And then for the refund processing, we anticipate that it will still take around 30 days. You can check the return and refund status on GovConnect Iowa. So we talked about where's my refund a little bit earlier. That is available logged in and non-logged in. And then for payments, although there were minor changes for returns, you should expect some changes with payment processing. So payments can be made through a service provider or directly on GovConnect Iowa. The payment methods on GovConnect Iowa include your bank account and credit card options. Payments can be scheduled for up to 1 year in advance. One important change to be aware of is the NACHA requirement. So what this means is that when a new bank account is used on GovConnect Iowa, a one-time $0 payment authorization is sent to the financial institution, and we refer to this as what's called a pre-note authorization. And basically what this is doing is confirming that the bank account is open, it's valid, and it's authentic. So our authorizations do follow the NACHA requirements. And so if you're going to Google NACHA after this, it's not NACHO, it's NACHA, and that stands for National Automated Clearinghouse Association. So with the returns and payments, we do have a great option available for you. This is open to existing GovConnect Iowa users. When you're logged in, you'll be able to view what's called the returns and payments dashboard. And so on the next slide, I'll show you what that looks like, but I will tell you that you won't be able to view the actual tax return here, but you can see payments that are received if there are outstanding balances. And then there is some functionality that's built in, so it's right on the screen. So an example of that would be that you could make a payment directly from one of these screens. So we just try to keep it somewhere that's really easy for you to get where you need to be. So on this next screen here, this is a screenshot of the dashboard. So you can see that there may be 3 options that are available to you. Some of these may depend on the tax type. So if you're not seeing that one of these is available, it's not that anything's wrong with your GovConnect Iowa account. It's something that we had configured on purpose. So we have balances, returns, and payments that are here. And depending on that selection, this will show you the tax period or payment history. So on the next page here, one of the options that you do have is that if you see a blue hyperlink, you can select it and you'll see more information. So for example, if you click a tax period, you can see what's called a period summary. And this will show you any activity that has occurred on that tax period. And this can include letters that have been mailed and the amount summaries. So here you can see the tax, payments, others, and credits that are available. The next exciting feature that we have to talk about are address updates. And so with Rollout 3, we are partnering with the United States Postal Service to obtain regular address updates. So this will allow us to be consistent and maintain accurate address records. So what does this really mean for you? This means that if you move, if your location changes, anything along those lines, make sure that you tell the United States Postal Service as soon as possible. You can also connect to your tax accounts on GovConnectIowa to view and update the address information. And then for at least individual income taxpayers here, you do have the ability to update the address on the return. So say that you file your return next year, we will automatically update it with the current address that you provide on a new return. This next segment here that we're going to talk about is, okay, she's talked about a ton of different features that are available. You may not refer to this webinar forever. So one of the things that we built for you within Rollout 3 was a website update. So for GovConnect Iowa, we have, I won't call it a guide necessarily, but we have various topics that are available to you. So I will tell you that our taxpayer services team and the GovConnect Iowa teams collaborated on this update. We're hearing the feedback that you gave us, things that you struggled with, and we're trying to provide the information for you here. The goal is basically to make your experience with GovConnect Iowa user-friendly and more efficient. So hopefully that's what this does for you. You'll see that this update includes enhancements to 9 main topics, and you'll see that we do have a section for increased online support for tax professionals. So what does that really mean through these? This means that you will get guidance on accessing tax accounts, more information on the GovConnect Iowa logon management process, anything to do with, registering a new business. If you're having trouble navigating GovConnect Iowa, all of these issues, I hope that you'll be able to find what you need right here. There is one that's going to be called technical, and I'm pretty excited about that. It just includes some tips and tricks and keyboard shortcuts that you're able to use just to make your experience a little more efficient. Underneath the tax professionals section, we do have information on what you can expect here and how to utilize the secondary logon, security groups, and the features that are available within the Accountant Center. So what we'll do now is we'll just go ahead and carry over into creating a GovConnect Iowa logon. And this is basically going to walk you through the process of how you can create that account. If you're an existing GovConnect Iowa user, you can log in using your existing credentials. And then for new users, GovConnect Iowa is designed to allow you to follow the on-screen instructions without having to use an additional guide. So hope this helps you get started. I did want to include information about why we recommend that you should create one. The recommendation is that you create one beginning November 13th. So if you already have a GovConnect Iowa account, you're a step ahead. One of the things that we recommend is that you request access to the tax accounts and you do it before the tax season begins. A couple reasons why we recommend that is that we do mail the access codes to the primary mailing address that's on file. So we'll dive into that shortly, but that can take some time to receive. So we just recommend that you're proactive and that you do that early. You can view the account information. So an important one is payment history. Say that you're a regular estimated payment maker or your client is. You do have the ability to view that payment history. You can also update your address. We just talked about that. Have the ability to communicate. So for example, you have a question. Perfect. If you're logged in and connected to your tax accounts, you can log in and you can send a message directly and to the Department of Revenue, and then we'll respond within 2 to 3 business days. You'll see here that you also have access to additional features. You have access control. And basically what that means is that you can submit third-party authorization forms like a power of attorney through GovConnect Iowa, and you can manage who has online access to your tax accounts. There are several additional features that would be interesting to you that I think you might find valuable. Those include appeals, collection actions, tax credits, all of that's available once you get logged in. So what the first step looks like here is you would be able to go to the GovConnect Iowa homepage, and you're going to look for the section that says create a logon. And then what you would do next is you would be asked to enter the profile information. This looks similar to most websites when you're creating a profile. You are required to have a username, email address, password, secret question and answer. That's pretty basic. And one thing that I will notate here is that the expectation is that on GovConnect Iowa, each person should have their own GovConnect Iowa logon. And this means that we recommend not sharing your password with others. Beginning on November 13th, you're going to see a new step that's available. This is where we will begin asking for your personal information to set up your GovConnect Iowa profile. So if you're an existing GovConnect Iowa user, you will be asked for this information when you request access to another tax account. This is a one-time request and you should not experience any interruptions. One of the main questions that I expect that we'll get is why are we asking for this information? We do have information available on the screen if you click that question mark. But the simple answer is that we're trying to keep tax information safe and secure, and we're trying to authenticate the GovConnect Iowa accounts, basically make sure that no fraudsters get through the door, but also to authenticate that you are who you say you are. The next step in creating a logon is to answer if you're a bulk filer. I will tell you there are approximately 350 bulk filers in the state of Iowa, and this answer typically only applies to service providers or tax preparers with a large client base. If you're still not sure if you are a bulk filer, you can click that I am a bulk filer link, and you'll be able to learn more there. The next step that we have is a short questionnaire. And so this is designed to help get you to the right place. If you haven't been in GovConnect Iowa before, I will tell you that it's dynamic. And so what that means is that the answers that you select on this screen impact which adventure you're going to take on future screens. So for example, if you were to answer no to the first 3 questions, you would be able to move forward with that last question, answer yes and no, and then you could keep going. Now, if you happen to select yes here, that's when it would take you to another step that says, okay, they want to request access, let's get started. So in this example, I am going to select yes, and then we'll keep going. So after you click next, you'll be prompted to a new screen that wants you to select an access type. This is very similar to what we have today. So if you're an existing GovConnect Iowa user, this shouldn't look too different to you, other than we've added more text to help you on screen. One of the new options that is available is called individual income access. And this option should only be selected if you're the taxpayer requesting access to your own personal income tax account. So for example, I would select that option if I were requesting to access to my own tax account, so Jerica's tax account. But I would select individual income tax, the other party access option, if I were selecting access to my spouse's. So just to clarify one more time, if it's me, it's individual income. If I'm trying to gain access to my spouse's, that would be other party access. Business access is intended for business owners or the employees of businesses. And then I will tell you, just make sure that you're choosing the right type. Unless you're the account holder, you should be selecting business access or other party access. If you need to request access to an inheritance account, I will tell you that you would always choose other party access, and we do have on-screen tips to help you through this process. But if you're needing access to a fiduciary or an individual income account, you can select the other options. So what do you need to request access? We talk about this on the first page when you go to create a logon, but ultimately you're going to need a few key pieces of information. You're going to need your identification number. So that is going to be like a social security number, an FEIN, maybe it's your license number. And then you're also going to need another item that only you, maybe your preparer or the department should know. So the secondary options include a prior year return or payment. It could include an IDR ID, which is a unique identifier that's issued by the department. And then it could be the business number that was used in e-file and pay. And then what would happen at this point is you'd be able to follow the on-screen prompts to submit this request, and then you'd receive an email through the GovConnect Iowa inbox with more information. So I'm just trying to present this as, what you can expect. So if you're requesting access to an account, here's what you can expect next. Access codes are mailed to the taxpayer's primary mailing address. So this means that if you are a tax professional or a third party requesting access to someone else's account, you should reach out to the taxpayer and let them know to expect a letter from the Iowa Department of Revenue. I will tell you that this is the third year that we've been using this process, and we have found that most codes are received within 5 days. However, it may take up to 10 days depending on where you're located. Once we mail the letter, we do rely on the United States Postal Service to deliver it. One of the common questions that we get is, what if I don't receive an access code or I didn't get it? What's next? The first step is that we ask that you verify if the taxpayer received it. So sometimes single envelopes can end up in a big pile, and we find that in most cases, the letter can be located. Just might take a little bit of hunting to see exactly where it's sitting. And then if you actually haven't received it, then we just ask that you move to step 2. Second step is to verify that the address is correct. And we do offer on the review step of these requests to go through and verify the zip code. And so a lot of times when, someone moves, they move to possibly a different city or a different zip code. And so in that instance, that may be an indicator that maybe something's not right. So say that you go to request access, you see that it's the wrong zip code. That would indicate that you need to update your address. And so you can go to our website and look for information, or you can contact our taxpayer services team for assistance. You do have the ability, once you're connected, to update your address online. So now that we've covered the basics of what's new, we'll talk about how to create a GovConnect Iowa logon and request access. So I'll go and show you the basic navigation of GovConnect Iowa. There are 4 important pieces of information available when you log in. So I have them detailed on this screen, and then I'll just go through 1 through 4. So the first item that we'll look at is the IDR ID. This number can be used when you're communicating with the department, or this may help a revenue representative. So say that you call in and they're like, hey, I need to verify some information. And you're like, okay, great. I have an IDR ID. And they'll be like, okay, that's a great starting point. That way they can verify your information. I will tell you the reason why we chose the IDR ID. It's because unlike your other IDs, like a social security number, this can be a unique identifier that would make it more difficult for fraudsters to impersonate you. And it can basically be used as like a primary identifier when you are communicating with us. The next one that we have here is the navigation bar. So we call these tabs. So that's number 2. The accounts tab houses the most important information all in one place. It has a list detailing each account that has been added to GovConnect Iowa. You may see some quick links that are out there. So like filing and viewing returns, making payments, and any other special interactions. The Actions Center tab, it lists all of the current actions that GovConnect Iowa expects you need to take. And so these actions are separated out by account type, and it does include a direct link to the action. So that way you don't have to search for it elsewhere. The Settings tab lists the security access that you have for each of the accounts underneath that customer that you're on, but as well as your overall access, and it also offers mail delivery options. And then the last tab is the I want to tab. This tab contains many different actions that are separated into sections. And so from there, you'd be able to access tax accounts, manage the payments, view correspondence, manage those third-party forms. You have quite a few different options that are available. And then the last one that we have here is Manage My Profile. So the Manage My Profile link allows the user to see their GovConnect Iowa WebLogon profile settings. So Terry, if you want to keep going a couple slides, you'll be able to see this too if you look at this later on. keep going. There you go. Perfect. Okay, so the Manage My Profile tab, um, so basically that does show the user settings for the actual GovConnect Iowa weblog on. And then you're going to see an action center like you did before. And so again, that just lists all of the current actions that you need to take. And then there's also an I want to tab. Again, that separates those different actions. And then the fourth item that you'd see is the account number. So each tax type and account will have their own account number that's available. So you'll be able to see that as well. So I think if you go back one more, Tara. There we go. Okay, so we touched briefly on the I want to tab. So for existing users, this isn't going to look much different than what you see now. You're going to see that we did add a quick link section. And basically what this does is it guides you to the most common links that are available. We are open to your feedback. So say that, you're in a group and you talk about these links that you can use on a daily basis and they're most frequent. We are open to feedback on that. So if that's something that, you're passionate about, it's something that you use, if you're, in contact with us, feel free to let us know. You'll see that the messages and letters panels have been combined into one panel, and that's labeled correspondence. And then again, you'll see that returns and payments dashboard is there. It did used to be called Manage Returns and Payments. However, we renamed it to incorporate those rollout 3 tax types. So you'll see that change as well. Many of the other links and panels remain unchanged. And then on the next slide here, we'll talk about View Support ID. This is something that you may not use right away, but you may use it when you're in contact with a department representative. So with the implementation of GovConnect Iowa, we can now assist you in real time by viewing your GovConnect Iowa session when we're on the phone. And so what this does is this allows us to see your session, see exactly what you're clicking, if there are any potential issues, and basically walk through the process with you. So how you would get to the support ID, I just included these red boxes here, but you would click that question mark, click View Support ID. It's going to ask you like a terms and conditions question. And then once you click yes, you'd be able to see that 6-digit code. You would provide that to the representative and then they'd be able to view it. A common question that I know that we get when we ask for this code is, wait, before I give it to you, can you see my other information? Can you see, my Facebook account? The answer is no, we cannot. We can only see the GovConnect Iowa session, and that session resets when you exit the window. So every time you log in and out of GovConnect Iowa, there is a new support ID just to give you that sense of privacy. So now we'll move on to security and verification. We have touched on the security aspect of support ID and a couple other cases here, but what I'll do is we'll talk about other web requests that are here. So we have verify my identity, which we talked about earlier. But basically, what will happen is sometimes, not always, when you file a tax return, additional verification may be needed. And so what this means is you may receive a letter from us asking you to verify your identity. Our ultimate goal is to protect you and protect your identity. What we don't want to happen is that somebody files a false tax return and they get a refund that doesn't belong to them. So that's what we're trying to prevent, and this web request will help us do that. How you respond is simple. You go to GovConnect Iowa, you click the Verify My Identity link, you follow the on-screen instructions, and you're set. We'll take it from there. We covered this a little bit earlier during Create a Logon, but we are going to begin asking for that personal information about you when you are creating your logon. So like I said, what that means is that you'll be asked to enter, your identifier, so like a social security number or possibly an ITIN. And then you'll also have to provide just some other personal information. Again, this is a one-time ask. After you've been approved, you do not have to go through that again. But I just want to tell you that you shouldn't experience any interruptions from this edition. And then another exciting update that we have is about report fraud and identity theft. So again, November 13th, you'll see that there's going to be a website update with more information on reporting fraud and identity theft. So you'll see tips on how to identify and prevent phishing attempts, prevent identity theft, what are best practices in the security community, and then some additional resources to you. So one that we do include on GovConnect Iowa is this taxpayer guide to identity theft that's provided by the IRS. So I will tell you that that is a majority of the information that I have here. I do just want to say that we're very excited to share with you the Rollout 3 updates, and hopefully you find these updates beneficial. Some of the additional information that I wanted to share with you is that subscribing to updates is easy. So you can go to tax.iowa.gov, you can scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you're going to look for the subscribe to updates link. And when you do that, you'll be prompted to select the subscription type. And so from there, you'll be able to view categories and make sure that you're getting updates that matter to you. So if you're curious about GovConnect Iowa updates, communications that we have, future webinars, this is where we primarily send this information. So it's a good thing to get subscribed. We do have upcoming webinars. We are nearing the end of our webinar schedule for 2023. So you can sign up for the December webinar, and that is called the electronic submission of W-2s and 1099s. You can subscribe to that today by going to tax.iowa.gov/webinars. And then you can also check this web page when we update for future webinars, and then we will highlight them on our social media and Gov Delivery as dates get closer. So Tara, if you want to go ahead and kick over to the contact us screen, what we'll do here is I'm going to take a pause while we begin this live Q&A portion. And then just remember, if I don't get to your question, just know that we're reviewing all the questions and that I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming today. So let's go ahead and see. So I have, what documents do you need so that I can have access to clients' accounts on GovConnect Iowa or to call on behalf of my client? So that's a good question. So I'm going to answer that in two parts. So the first question is, what documentations do you need? So what you need to have at that point to request access to your client's account is you're going to need, if it's individual income, their social security number is what you'll need, along with a second piece. And so that second piece could be that BEN number from eFile and Pay. It could be prior year information, say that they submitted a payment. You may be able to use that as verification to gain access. In terms of the Iowa 2848, I would recommend that you go out to that form and look at the form instructions, and that would be able to provide you the best information. Another question is, how do we answer the personal questions if you are a company? So I'm going to make an assumption that the personal questions are in regards to the About You section. So what you would do is GovConnect Iowa is meant to have logons at the individual level. So you would put your own personal information there, and that information is not transmitted back to your company. That's something that we keep internally, so that way we can verify that you're an authentic user. For an individual income account, will we be able to see payments made outside of GovConnect Iowa? That is a great question, and I am going to open that one up to our team and see if they have an answer. If not, I will take it back and we'll get an answer for you. Rachel or Tara, do you happen to know the answer to that question?
So I'm going to say if it is like rollout one, 9/30/21 merged in with rollout one. So I'm going to say probably that 9/30 estimate will come in there.
Okay. Okay. So just to repeat what Tara is saying here. Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, I was just going to say that you will be able to see payments. The availability of what kind of information will look different, and also the processing time looks slightly different. So we definitely do accept payments outside of GovConnect Iowa if you want to still mail in your checks, but it does increase your processing time. So we always recommend, if you can, logged in on GovConnect Iowa is the best.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Tara. Appreciate that. Another question that we have here, these questions are fantastic, by the way. Thank you so much for providing them. Must the attorney gain access to the tax account through their own account and ask for access to be sent? I'm going to read that one more time, just make sure I answer it right. Yes, that's correct. So you would gain access to your own tax, so not necessarily your own tax account, but you would create a GovConnectIowa profile, and then you could request access to the client's tax account through there. That's a good question. So you do not have to be connected to your own individual income account in order to get access to someone else's. You don't ever need to have access to your own individual income account. All right. I see there are a couple other questions. There's a question about PTET, which is a little outside of this webinar, but I will answer it here because it's a valuable process that we have. So for the PTET, if you have an existing GovConnectIowa account, you do need to have access to, I believe it's a corporate account or a partnership account. And so if you contact Taxpayer Services, they'll be able to help you. I believe that phone number is 515-281-3114. It is on the slide deck here as well. Heidi asked, do we still mail checks with the Iowa inheritance tax returns? That one is ultimately up to you. So you can still mail checks. We are not going to deny them, but if you would like to make the payment electronically, you can do that non-logged in. And then the last one that we have here. So yes, we need a firm login to manage employees and a personal login. I would say that that's true. I think that with GovConnectIowa, it's important to separate personal versus business. So for example, if I'm going to use the example of an attorney, say that you're an attorney and you have multiple employees that work for you. One recommendation that I have is that you decide on who's going to be an administrator. So say that you have a supervisor, we're going to use a hierarchy. You have a supervisor with 3 employees under them. What I would recommend is that one supervisor requests access to the client account, and then you have the ability to create what's called a secondary logon. And what that is basically that you can activate them, deactivate them, unlock them, and you can ultimately manage what access they have. And so this is really good for employees, and that's the path that we recommend. Is the reason to do that is because you can easily manage their access. So we do recommend that, say that you have one supervisor, 3 employees, that all 4 of those people have separate GovConnectIowa logons, but how you create them may be different. So if you need help getting started with that, we will have information on our website to help you get started. We do have other webinars that are available for that, but overall, Taxpayer Services is a fantastic solution to help you with that. They can walk you through it. So those are all of the questions that I have right now that are open, that I at least can answer right now. So Kyle, I will just go ahead and say thank you again for coming today, and then I'll pass it back to you.
Perfect. Well, you nailed it. I mean, pretty smooth, right? I mean, for a couple of hiccups in the beginning, I mean, I think it all ended on a high point, so that's good. Yeah, so I just have like a little closing spiel, and then I'll get through that, and everybody can get on with the rest of their day. So thank you again to Jerica, Tara, and Rachel for sharing information regarding GovConnectIowa updates. These new updates that were very informative. So as a reminder, this webinar was recorded and will be available to watch on our website, or by searching for Iowa Source Link on YouTube next week, probably like a Monday timeline. If your questions were not answered today, which there were a lot of really good questions and a lot of answers to those questions, I think we had like 90 answered questions or something like that. So which is great. So hopefully you got some value out of that. But by chance, if they weren't answered, make sure that you download the PDF version of the slides that's been shared a couple of times in the chat. Or you can go to our website and download it there. You can also rewatch this webinar for clarification as well. Again, that'll come out in a couple of days. If for some reason your questions weren't answered, they will be mailed out to our presenters, and they can follow up with you if they are able to. So as a reminder, Iowa SourceLink does not provide continuing education certification or certificates for your attendance here today, or any of our webinars for that matter. There will be an email sent out next week that you can use as proof of attendance. This is not a formal certificate. I repeat, not a formal certificate. If you haven't picked up by now, we get that question quite a bit. And I always have to say it, but no formal certificates. Sorry. The next Iowa Department of Revenue webinar will be held on December 13th from noon to 1 p.m. CST Central Standard Time. You got to shorten things up sometimes. So the webinar will provide an overview of the requirements for electronic submissions of W-2s and 1099s for IDR. So if either you or someone you know would be interested in attending, make sure to go to iowasourcelink.com and navigate to our tax webinars page to sign up. So until next time, take care, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.